want retribution. Oh yeah, we want retribution. Oh yeah, we want retribution. Oh yeah, we want retribution. Yeah, we ran out of patience. Boil up with the cold hard hatred. I can feel the vibration. Feet in the streets, it's a new sensation. I wanna break faces on the pavement. I wanna make greatness look complacent. Adrenaline awakened, I can taste it. We can make an impact, grab and then take it.
Damn, that shit's smooth. That cut good, smooth again. Yeah, that's the fastest, I think. Yeah, that's the fastest, I think. We won't know until we put it in the on the computer and edit it out. But I got one more treat for you. Might as well see if this piece of shit will hang. Steel 400C. I know it's not quite broken in yet. We got a 25-inch bar on it. This is just for fun. Let's see if he'll beat that Johnsy. For the record, I'm going to say I don't think it's got it in it. I think the Johnson Red will beat it. I don't know if it'll beat it or not. I mean, that was pretty dang quick. It's a nice saw. I mean, you guys are watching the channel, you know, but there's new people all the time. And you gotta understand, I love giving steel shit, right? Not because I dislike the saws. They're not my thing, really. But this is a great saw. I mean, I really like this saw. This one particularly. The reason I like giving steel shit is because of all the people that think that they're the only real professional chainsaw, and they also think that if you're buying a steel, you are getting a professional chainsaw. That is not true. This right here is very much a professional model, but a lot of the other stuff that you think is professional isn't. It's just like farm grade. With nothing wrong with that. It's just the attitude of so many steel fanboys. It's like they automatically think that because they've got a steel, they think they've got a professional saw. I don't need to explain myself any further. You guys have heard from me a lot. But it's a great saw. And I can't wait for this thing to fully break in and start modifying it. It's a hot little number right here. Oh, hey, how about that? That was a good one, yeah? We all like doing little tests like this and everything. I know there's a lot of people out there that goes, what's the point? A second here, a second there. I get it. I really do. But it's fun to do these little tests, and I'm making videos, and you clicked on it, so obviously you were interested. So, you know, but boy, wasn't that a shocker about the square grind out of the box. Oh my God, that got beat bad. I mean, I think it got beat by like 5 or 6 seconds or something. I can't remember exactly, but geez, I was expecting exactly the opposite. Now, I get it. This is out of the box. And a lot of people say things like, oh, out of the box ain't no good and stuff. But it's still square grind. I mean, I've heard so much about square grind and how fast it is and everything. This is my first time ever running a square grind chain, and I'm like, damn, that thing was pathetic. I mean, it got beat. I think it got beat by every other chain. Wow. Wow is all I can say to that. That's crazy. Also to be noted, if I didn't put it in there, or if you missed it, this square grind chain is a semi-skip. So it's not a full skip, it's a semi-skip. So it's missing, I don't know, some of the teeth. There you go. It's not like half the teeth. It's missing, it's got like 2/3 of the amount of teeth that the full house does. I think that's how it goes. Anyways, regardless of all that, all us people ever hear is square grind. Square grind is so fast. And so I was expecting that thing to just be amazing. It is not. Wow. And I don't know if I left it in again, but after I used it, I was like, damn, that thing is smooth. And it is. It just was smooth as could be. There was no catching or dragging on that wood at all with the square grind. You couldn't feel it pulling into the wood because it was just cutting it. But I guess I can remember looking down at the ground and the chips it was throwing too. I mean, I didn't think to pick them up or anything like that, but I can remember seeing them and going, those look different. Those were healthier, nicer chips. So I don't know what the deal is. The rakers seem to be about right, but I'm sure the cutter is so sharp that it would be more beneficial for you to run a much lower raker. But all I can do is test it, guys, and show you the results. Another shocker is the Husqvarna SP33 beating the Oregon LGX. What's that? Isn't that what it's called? Yeah. The LGX is a full chisel, single raker setup. And that SP33 is a semi-chisel, double raker setup. And it beat it good, fair and square, by like a couple seconds or something, it beat it. Dang. But yeah, of course, the winner of the day is going to be that Steel RS 325, but barely. I just talked with Eric Nickel, and he was thinking that maybe the Steel RS was about 5% or as much as 5% faster than the C83.
And, you know, different wood, different saws, stuff like that makes a difference, I know. But from this test right here, that thing, what was it? 1/1000th faster? I can tell you what it was. It was 1 frame faster, right? When filming, it goes by frames. I'm filming this at 30 frames per second. So if it was 1 frame faster, then that is a 30th of a second faster than the C83, which that ain't much. What was it? Like an 11-second cut? Man, that ain't much. Anyways, fun test. Boy, the Johnson Red, that thing is running great. Whenever you pour a saw, and you fire it up and you put it in the wood, it's very rare that right off the cuff you're like, oh, you've got to run it a bit and feel that saw, know that saw, how that saw wants to run. Is it a torquer or is it a rever? Well, anyways, I felt like it had kind of lackluster performance for having ported and piped it whenever I first did it. I mean, it was good. It was happy. It was a good port job. I could tell that I gained a good bit of power, but I was just expecting to be blown away, which most people are, you know, expect to be blown away. But from my experience now, which is it's starting to get pretty substantial. I've had a lot of ported saws at this point, ran them in my hands. I've ported a lot now. And what I can say is usually the case. You usually don't get a feel for how much power that saw has until after you've ran it for a good while, you know? And at this point, I mean, that Johnson Red still is not broken in. I doubt if I'm on my 4th tank. I've got so many saws, and I'm not cutting every day. I'm just a hobbyist, you know? So it takes me a long time to break in a saw, especially because not only do I not cut very much, but I also have tons of saws to pick from. So typically whenever I'm grabbing a saw and putting it in wood, I'm only doing 4, 5, 6 cookies. And that's just not enough. It's just not enough. But it is what it is, and I really love that Johnson Red. And of course, the 400C puts out more power. I think it has 8 more cc's. It has that magnesium piston, which makes a hell of a difference, I'm sure. That thing is a hot saw right out the gate. I mean, not hot saw like a race saw, but it's hot from the factory. It's a good running saw. And, well, I mean, you just saw that I put it up against that Shindawa. And, of course, the Shindawa beat it, but not by much. And I chose to use it beat it by more. It would have beaten it more if I had used an out-of-the-box C83, but I wanted to keep it kind of even. So the hand-filed C83 that I have is about 1.5 seconds behind an out-of-the-box C83. So that probably puts it pretty much on par with the Steel RS chain. And I get it. The Steel also was running at 25-inch bars. But who cares? We're just having fun. Having fun. That Steel is an awesome saw. And, you know, Matt keeps telling me that whenever it breaks in, it's like a light switch. Like he has questions of whether or not, like, there's maybe an hour meter built into the little computer thing that it has that forces a proper break-in, and then once you hit that time, I think he said it took him about 10 gas tanks. Once you hit that allotted time, the break-in was just unreal. And, you know, I guess there very well could be something in the programming of the auto-tune system that it has, or M-Tronic, that's what they call it. I don't know. But I can tell you this. So I have built and ridden, raced a lot of two-stroke engines in the motocross world, and on the street as well. Not so many two-strokes on the street, but four strokes and stuff. But I had one motorcycle, and I hope you chuckle, because I like it. I like making people laugh. I had a Vespa. So my deal with motorcycles is I was into cafe racers, and I built a lot of CB 750s, single overhead cam cafe race bikes, and they're very cool to me. And I would white t-shirt with the sleeves rolled up, slick my hair back, have some cool sunglasses on. I was trying to go for James Dean, and riding that cool old motorcycle. That was my style. And whenever I met my wife, it was online. I was working night shift at the time, and it's hard to meet anybody at night shift. It's hard to meet anybody anyways whenever you're an adult, because you're not just going out and doing little kid things and meeting other little kids. So it's, I was 32, I think. I had child support to pay. I had trips to make to my mom and dad and stuff, but I was still trying to date, and it makes it even harder whenever you're on night shift. So we met online. She actually contacted me, which is that if you ever did online dating, it's always the men flooding the women with, hey, you got a great profile picture, whatever. Well, in my profile, I had said, if you dress up like Marilyn Monroe, I'll dress up like James Dean, and we can ride on my cafe racer motorcycle. And I guess she was particularly impressed by that, and for some odd reason, she loves this tattoo. She loves it. Hey, all right. But so she replied back, how about I dress up like Marilyn Monroe if you dress up like a proper mod and take me for a ride on my vintage 1966 Vespa 180 Super Sport? And I was like, what? This chick knows about the Mods and the Rockers. Mods and the Rockers were the two original motorcycle gangs from London, right? The Rockers were into greasing their hair back, wearing a black leather jacket, and being badass on their old BSA and Triumph and all these, the motorcycles and the Nortons. That's what they were into. And they would wrench on their machines, and they'd be greasy and mechanic-y. And that's what I associated with. Well, my prim and proper wife associated more with the Mods. The Mods rode Vespas and Lambrettas, stuff like that, little scooters all around London, and they dressed in nice little suits, little tight suits with a little skinny tie. And it was just really cool that she even knew that. So, anyways, we hit it off, obviously, right from the start. And the deal of me telling that whole story is she had two Vespas. One was a newer one. It was like a 2005 model. Thing only had 15 miles on it because it never ran right. She got it, and it was constantly fouling plugs and everything. And well, I was like, I can work on that. And eventually it became mine. And I would ride it around, and she'd ride the little Super Sport around. And, well, of course, I hot rodded my little Vespa. I put an aftermarket cylinder on it and everything, and a pipe and all this stuff. And that little thing was fast, man. I'm talking fast. And the carburetors are very different on those from a regular motorcycle carburetor. They're downdraft, and I was like, what the heck? And I couldn't just buy jets for it anywhere. And so I ended up taking it to a mechanic to jet it for me. And in talking with him, he was a specific Vespa mechanic. That's like all he did. He's here in Atlanta. And he told me, he said, now this is going to be unlike anything you've ever dealt with before with the break-in. I was like, really? What do you mean? It's just a 2-stroke. And he said, yeah, I get it. I hear it all the time. But when this thing breaks in, it'll take you right at 30 miles, and it will be a light switch. You will know it happened in the moment that it happens. I was like, whatever. You're full of shit, I was just like, no, that's whatever. And he said, yeah, it will. It will be an absolute flip the switch. Now your power is here. And I was like, okay, whatever. Well, I was riding it to work. Now, the thing was hot. It was fast. I mean, I think it had like 24 horsepower or something like that on one of those little things, engines in the back. You couldn't hardly shift from first to second and second to third without that front tire popping up off the ground, right? It was fun. It was fun. It's way more fun to go fast on something slow than it is to go slow on something fast. But I was riding, and I was riding it to work. And I was teaching at a technical college at the time. And I was teaching heating and air conditioning. So, but I'm riding it, me, and all of a sudden it's like, me. What? Whoa, me. It was just immediate. The light switch power. It increased probably 20% in power in the moment, immediately. And so I have experienced that. Matt keeps telling me that's what happens to the 400C. And so I'm looking forward to that moment. I don't know if I'll be able to wait until that moment before I start modifying it, but I am waiting for that moment. So, but I with that Vespa, I was like, oh. And so riding it to work, typically I just took regular city streets and stuff like that, maybe city highways. But I knew that I could jump on the interstate real quick, and there was a mile between this exit and this on-ramp. So I knew that I was like, well, I can just jump on the interstate real quick and see what this thing will top out at. And now we're getting deep here into story time, so might as well go with it, right? Well, I had told the guy who jetted my carburetor, I said, it's got a lean spot in it on the top. And he's like, no, it don't. That's just your break-in, period. And I was like, nah, it's got a lean spot in it. I can feel it. And he's like, no, trust me. Well, I hop on that interstate right after it breaks in. And of course, white knuckle, man. Ding, 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 ding. I'm like looking at it. Oh my God, that little Vespa. I was doing 75 miles an hour. Those little tiny donut wheels, my God. And again, like a light switch, immediately the engine, once I hit 75, and there I am at 75, boom. That engine locks up tight as Dick's hat band. And that back tire, of course, locks up. And, I just alluded to, I've ridden a lot of motorcycles. I've ridden a lot. And so I'm a pretty skilled rider. Okay, let's just put it that way. I'm not your typical joker that just is scared to lay it down in a turn and stuff like that. Okay, I know what to do. But because those tires were so little, as soon as they locked up, it went into a death wobble. I grabbed in that clutch, and I immediately spilled that thing right on the ground. I got lucky, and I low-sided it instead of high-side. High-side will flip you over. Low-side just laid it down, and I got my hand down on the asphalt, and it immediately went through my glove, and it ripped off a big old hunk of meat right here. But I've wrecked so much, I like to tell people I'm a professional wrecker because I know what to do. Right? Now, not always does this happen, but this time I had the sense and the time because I was kind of surfing on the Vespa, keeping my body off of the pavement, but my hand was touching. But as soon as it went through my glove, I realized something has to happen, and I tucked my knees in, I tucked my elbows in, and I went rolling down the interstate. I guarantee whenever I touched pavement, I was going at least 50 miles an hour, probably 60, because it all happened so fast. There was no time to decelerate. I was flying, and then I'm rolling. I was like Sonic the Hedgehog. But I jumped up and immediately looked behind me because my biggest fear this whole time wasn't road rash or I'm going to slam into the median, nothing like that. My biggest fear was one of those cars going 75 or 80 is going to run over me. And I jumped up and I looked back, and there's a big Dodge truck with a man and his wife, and they're both going like that. Well, they were holding back traffic for me. I was all the way in the right lane. So I immediately grabbed the scooter and pulled it off to the side, and they pulled over with me. And they're like, "Are you okay?" And all I could do was cuss that Vespa. I was like, "I ain't never getting a damn Italian motorcycle ever again in my life. This piece of shit," you know. And they didn't know what to say whatsoever. And here I am, because I was teaching at the technical college. I had khakis, a nice dress shirt, tie, and everything, and I'm standing there, and my pants and my shirt are shredded. I had to look like Lon Chaney, man, right after he turns back into a human from being a vampire or a werewolf, you know? I was just So, anyways, I am familiar with certain engines. I don't know what creates the characteristic. These Echoes, they really come alive too whenever they break in, but not on that level. You just find yourself going, "Dang, man, this thing's running good." And that's, you know, that Vespa, whenever it came alive, like I said, it probably went from 20 horsepower to 25, 24, something like that. You know, I mean, and that's a big difference. That's like adding an entire Briggs & Stratton motor on there. That's a big difference. So, anyways, that's enough for this video. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'm out.